How does the world deal with 35 million refugees? The technical law definition of a refugee is one who's been forced out of their nation because of either persecution or they have a well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. The loyalty that a nation-state owes to its citizens has been broken. For one reason or another, because of those characteristics I just named, the state has decided to punish the individual, his or her family, or members of the group that that person belongs to. Without the protection of the state, the individual is forced to flee. But there's no corresponding right for a state to accept an individual. What does the world do then with millions of individuals who flee their country but have no open door to go to? Since 1948, the world community has defined refugees in this matter and has tried to establish processes for countries to examine and analyze whether an individual meets that definition of refugee status, and then encourage countries around the world who adopted the UN Convention on Refugees to then process those persons and permit them to come into the nation. Many different nations have adopted procedures that replicate some or most of the terms of the UN Convention, but each country in its own sovereignty has decided exactly how to process that. The United States has a number of ways of processing refugees. In some situations, we actually interview individuals outside of their country around the world. Therefore, there might be offices in Rome or in Thailand or other nations that are close to places where refugee flows tend to congregate, and interview families and decide then whether they are eligible for status. They then contract with church groups or not-for-profits to process those individuals in the United States, offering housing, English language classes, job training classes, and classes to acclimate individuals to a culture that may be dramatically different from one that they've had in their homeland. What a benefit to this nation. You can drive into places in Iowa or Minnesota and see Hmong families or folks from Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam. And remarkable what driving along the Iowa countryside and come across a family that, or a community that church groups have helped settle in that area. We also have a process where individuals who don't have time or safety to go through the regular process, who might be fleeing persecution at the very moment they cross their border, what would they do? The world community has also set up an asylum program where individuals can apply for asylum. Again, each country in its own sovereignty decides exactly how the process works, but individuals come into the United States and ask an immigration official or an immigration judge to find that they are an asylee. Again, someone who has been persecuted or has a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, social group, or political opinion. This often entails lawyers, although the government does not provide free lawyers. Therefore, there's a very important management job of recruiting lawyers, paying for lawyers, or encouraging pro bono lawyers to volunteer their time to work on these cases. They can often be extremely difficult cases. Imagine trying to prove your identity and the story that you were persecuted when you've had to flee in the middle of the night or be smuggled out of a country, often leaving all your documents behind, leaving proof of what your activities were that would so enrage a government that might want to persecute you. To enter a new nation and trust lawyers, where perhaps in your homeland lawyers were the very instruments of persecution. They may have been instruments of the government that helped keep dictatorial governments in power. And then now you're asked to trust a stranger who says, I'm wearing a tie, I'm a lawyer, tell me your story. The kind of trust that you must be able to do that. And then understand what you have to